Our first speaker will be Miss Bopp, who is the Secretary of the Mother Temple of Europe for a long time, and being the Secretary and having worked from 1958 up to this time, she can give you a good example and good work that they have achieved in Europe.
Beloved friends, after having had yesterday such inspiring reports from areas where our beloved cause is progressing, not step by step, but in leaps, it is hard to say something on our sacred duty, our glorious challenge, especially in view of the fact that I'm coming from a continent where nothing so spectacular has been achieved, with the exception of our European Mother Temple. We owe deep gratitude to the whole Baha'i world for the erection of this wonderful building, and we want to say thank you for all the help which you have given us, and we are certain that you will also give us this help in future. However, it is our sacred duty and glorious challenge to reach our goal of mass conversion, even if we are the last ones passing the line. And this subject I only dare to speak about by referring to the words of the Blessed Beauty, the beloved Master, and our guardian, Shoghi Effendi, who said in 1931, "Ours, dearly beloved co-workers, is the paramount duty to continue with undimmed vision and unabated zeal to assist in the final erection of that edifice, the foundations of which Baha'u'llah has laid in our hearts, to derive added hope and strength from the general trend of recent events, however dark their immediate effects, and to pray with unremitting fervor that He may hasten the approach of the realization of that wondrous vision which constitutes the brightest emanation of His mind and the fairest fruit of the fairest civilization the world has yet seen." Might not the 100th anniversary of the declaration of the faith of Baha'u'llah mark the inauguration of so vast an era in human history? We have now witnessed during these last historic days the erection of the edifice and the inauguration of the era which will bring forth all these fruits promised by Baha'u'llah. By fulfilling the tasks which have been given to his adherents in the first 100 years of the evolution of his cause, our duties haven't come to an end, and the challenge has become even more pressing. Having been so closely related to the building of the Mother Temple of Europe, I know it is hard work to erect the building and to overcome all the obstacles which were thrown into the path of the realization in stone of an edifice which in the beginning was only existing in our hearts. Now we can say it is achieved. However, this is not the ultimate aim. The ultimate aim is to make this building the refuge for mankind, to attract the hearts of men to give them the guidance they need to make them realize the stronghold in which they will be sheltered against all the storms of the world in the love of God, if they respect His laws. And to make this aim a reality, that is our sacred duty and our glorious challenge in the years to come. The beloved guardian said, "How pressing and sacred the responsibility that now weighs upon those who are already acquainted with these teachings. How glorious the task of those who are called upon to vindicate their truth and demonstrate their practicability to an unbelieving world. Nothing short of an immovable conviction in their divine origin and their uniqueness in the annals of religion. Nothing short of an unwavering purpose to execute and apply them to the administrative machinery of the cause can be sufficient to establish their reality and ensure their success." How vast is the revelation of Baha'u'llah! How great the magnitude of his blessing showered upon humanity in this day! And yet, how poor, how inadequate our conception of their significance and glory. This generation stands too close to so colossal a revelation to appreciate in their full measure the infinite possibilities of his faith, the unprecedented character of his cause, and the mysterious dispensation of his providence. In the bygone years, when the believers have been working under the guidance of Abdul Baha and Shoghi Effendi, the paramount duty was to spread the cause all over the world. The seed had been planted by Baha'u'llah. The plant was taken care of by Abdul Baha. He watered it, cut off any outgrowth which would weaken its development, guarded it against hail and storm, and made it strong to extend its offshoots to other places. Shoghi Effendi, in his term of office, saw to it that from the offshoots new plants could grow, which were not to become big plants immediately, but had to spread again their offshoots to new places. Thus, a net of small plants has been and is covering the surface of the globe, which are the Baha'i centers in every corner of our world, the individual believers, the groups, and local spiritual assemblies. They all work along the lines of an administrative order which has divine origin. Unlike the dispensation of Christ, unlike the dispensation of Muhammad, unlike all the dispensations of the past, the apostles of Baha'u'llah in every land, wherever they labor and toil, have before them, in clear, in unequivocal and emphatic language, all the laws, the regulations, the principles, the institutions, the guidance they require for the prosecution and consummation of their task, as the beloved guardian has explained. This net of local spiritual assemblies is the fundament for the pillars of the universal house of justice. And it has to be strengthened and made more dense. The spiritual assemblies, the bedrocks of the world order of Baha'u'llah, must be made so strong and numerous that they can take over the tasks which will ultimately be theirs. And Shoghi Effendi said about these tasks that the spiritual assemblies of today will be replaced in time by the houses of justice and are to all intents and purposes identical and not separate bodies is abundantly confirmed by Abdul Baha himself. He has in fact in a tablet addressed to the members of the First Chicago Spiritual Assembly, the first elected Baha'i body instituted in the United States, referred to them as the members of the House of Justice for that city, and has thus, with his own pen, established beyond any doubt the identity of the present Baha'i spiritual assemblies with the houses of justice referred to by Baha'u'llah. Not only will the present-day spiritual assemblies be styled differently in future, but they will be enabled also to add to their present functions those powers, duties and prerogatives necessitated by the recognition of the faith of Baha'u'llah, not merely as one of the recognized religious systems of the world, but as the state religion of an independent and sovereign power. This golden age of the cause of Baha'u'llah, the erection of his world order, is not a vision we know which will never come true, even though present-day men, especially in our European world, doubt its realization. Abdul Baha stated very clearly, "A few unaware of the latent power in human endeavor consider this matter as highly impracticable, nay, even beyond the scope of man's utmost efforts. Such is not the case. On the contrary, thanks to the unfailing grace of God, the loving kindness of his favored ones, the unrivaled endeavors of wise and capable souls, and the thoughts and ideas of the peerless leaders of this age, nothing whatsoever can be regarded as unattainable. Endeavor, ceaseless endeavor, is required. Nothing short of an indomitable determination can possibly achieve it. Many a cause which past ages have regarded as purely visionary, yet in this day has become most easy and practicable. Why should this most great and lofty cause, the day star of the firmament of true civilization and the cause of the glory, the advancement, the well-being, and the success of all humanity, be regarded as impossible of achievement? Surely the day will come when its beauteous light shall shed illumination upon the assemblage of men." However, on the other hand, we have to realize that the achievement is not an easy one here in Europe, and Shoghi Effendi warned us clearly to see the facts. He said to disregard the fleeting fashions of today and to realize as never before that the exploded theories and the tottering institutions of present-day civilization must needs appear in sharp contrast with those God-given institutions which are destined to arise upon their ruin. I pray that they may realize with all their heart and soul the ineffable glory of their calling, the overwhelming responsibility of their mission, and the astounding immensity of their task. In the Western world, and especially Europe, it means that we have to maintain at any expense those local spiritual assemblies which have so painstakingly been erected. Every stone of this yet small building had to be broken out of a quarry of materialism. And our assemblies must be anchored firmly in the ground so that when the time comes, they can easily take in first hundreds of believers, and God willing, thousands will follow ere long. In this respect, it should be pointed out again that the pioneers should stay at their posts, which they had already been asked to do by the hands of the cause not long ago, until such time when they can be replaced by local friends who have, with their help, become confirmed believers. We owe deep gratitude to all the pioneers in Europe who are toiling on a very stony ground, and we ask them to realize, in spite of all the wonderful news we have heard here of the progress of the cause, that the ground is not yet fertile and needs their further attention, care, and loving help. We all know that the day will come when they can be released, because just as Africa has ignited the Australasian area, and Australasia in its turn the Indian subcontinent in Asia, from where the flames have sprung over to Latin America, the European continent will catch fire suddenly. Perhaps we may say that the first shine of that flame we can already see, because in Germany, for instance, we had in the last years round about 100 declarations, which for Germany is an unprecedented achievement. And I've heard from other European countries that they can say that too. I know it's not the palm of victory which we are putting down at the threshold of Baha'u'llah, but perhaps one could say it's a little forget-us-not which we humbly put down. All we need to do is to be prepared by preparing ourselves and our institutions to help the individuals here in Europe. Let us not forget that every plant and every animal needs loving care when it is young. There are very few higher developed living beings which are left alone in growing up. And this also reminds me of the hard work done in the Holy Land in cultivating the barren soil there. And this, I think, this example applies also to our young assemblies and believers. And please, dear friends, do remember that the place where we can foster these young plants is the 19-day feast. It is the basis upon which a solid community can be erected. And it's the same all over the world. Even though methods of all other activities may differ, this, the 19-day feast, is the same all over the world. When the time has come, Baha'u'llah himself promised that we will have help in our efforts. I swear by the one true God, this is the day of those who have detached themselves from all but him, the day of those who have recognized his unity the day whereon God createth with the hands, whom will cast the world and all that is therein behind him, and will wax so steadfast in the cause of God, that every wise and understanding heart will marvel. There lay concealed within the holy veil, and prepared for the service of God, a company of his chosen ones, who shall be manifested unto men, who shall aid his cause, who shall be afraid of no one, though the entire human race rise up and war against them. These are the ones who, before the gaze of the dwellers on earth and the denizens of heaven, shall arise and shouting aloud acclaim the name of the Almighty, and summon the children of men to the path of God, the all-glorious, the all-praised. He will ere long out of the bosom of power draw forth the hands of ascendancy and might, hands who will arise to win victory for this youth, and who will purge mankind from the defilement of the outcast and the ungodly. These hands will gird up their loins to champion the faith of God, and will, in my name, the self-subsistent, the mighty, subdue the peoples and kindreds of the earth. They will enter the cities and will inspire with fear the hearts of all their inhabitants. Such are the evidence of the might of God. How fearful, how vehement is his might. But also, if we are alone, we can do our share. And we know that many valiant pioneers are working since the inception of the crusade alone on their posts, without any echo amongst the population. A dewdrop, as Bahá'í says, of this ocean would, if shed upon all that are in the heavens and on earth, suffice to enrich them with the bounty of God, the Almighty, the All-Knowing, the All-Wise. With the hands of renunciation draw forth from its life-giving waters, and sprinkle therewith all created things, that they may be cleansed from all man-made limitations, and may approach the mighty seat of God. Be not grieved if thou performest it thyself alone. Let God be all sufficient for thee. With the assistance from the concourse on high, it is our sacred duty, which we must face and be conscious of it at any moment of our life, that we alone are the instruments through which Baha'u'llah, the manifestation of God, will save mankind, and that we cannot fail to respond to this glorious challenge. We must disregard our own likes and dislikes, discipline our conduct, win victories over our own selves, and sacrifice our leisure and means. This is a long process, and sometimes a slow one, which necessitates much patience, and moreover, it's a process which is not very spectacular. But from two incidents or experiences which I had, I know that even in Europe, our contact can make a great influence on people. All those believers who have been present at the laying of the cornerstone of the Mother Temple of Europe remember that it was awful weather at that time, wet, cold, windy. And we had prepared for 350 believers because 250 had registered, and 1,000 came. And, well, the preparations naturally were not quite adequate. They had to stand in this mud around the cornerstone. Fortunately, we did have a loudspeaker system. And after a month, after the laying of the cornerstone, I called the shop where we had got it from and asked where the invoice was. And the owner said, well, Miss Bopp, you won't receive an invoice because I was so impressed by the behavior and the conduct of the Baha'is who have been present at the laying of the cornerstone. They have been all so happy, no angry faces, no temperamental outbursts, nothing. They were just happy, and this made me so happy that I don't want to charge you for that. And when we were going to Haifa, this time for the election of the Universal House, it was a rather tedious time for checking in the luggage. And the El Al representative came afterwards to me and said, well, Miss Bopp, I must pay tribute to the discipline of your group, because it's seldom that if checking out for luggage takes such a long time, such a discipline is kept and nobody gets angry or shouts at us or any other thing. So we see we can do something by having dignity in our conduct, by living the Baha'i life, and the others will realize what it means to be a Baha'i. Now, to understand these twin tasks of improving ourselves as well as spreading His cause and preparing the kingdom of God on earth, a thorough knowledge of Baha'u'llah's teachings is needed, and studying his writings is a lifelong occupation. It does not involve that every believer becomes an expert scholar, but every believer has to study according to his or her capacity, to be able to pass on to the seeker the amount of knowledge God has ordained him or her to acquire. Teaching, we know, is the strongest incentive for learning. This is an irrevocable truth, which is also an irresistible motor for our own advancement. Abdu'l-Baha said, of all the gifts of God, the greatest gift is the gift of teaching. It draws unto us the grace of God and is our first obligation. Of such a gift, how can we deprive ourselves? Nay, our lives, our goods, our comforts, our rest, we offer them all as a sacrifice for the upper beauty and teach the cause of God. We are the few instruments in the great world orchestra who know the new score of the eternal divine melody. Let us handle our instruments perfectly, listening carefully to the conductor who is guided by the infallible guidance, and thus bring the whole orchestra through the sweetness of our words and deeds to a harmony which is the base for world peace and unspeakable progress of mankind in complete unity.